You walk into a networking event or a crowded party. The noise washes over you. Everyone seems entirely engrossed in their own cliques, and you feel completely invisible. Take our case study over here in the corner. Let's call him Subject A. He is radiating tension. Under the pressure of the room, that anxious energy leaks out through micro-movements. He speaks too quickly, fidgets with his drink, and constantly shifts his posture, scanning the room for external approval. The common advice is that Subject A needs to transform his entire personality, that to be memorable, he has to become the loudest, most aggressively outgoing person in the room. But the loudest person is often the most easily forgotten. Curious, engaging, social magnetism isn't an innate talent. It is a result of triggering specific biological responses in the people around you. When you leave an interaction, people rarely recall the exact sentences you used. They remember how their brain reacted to your presence. To change how people see you, you have to change the neurochemicals you trigger in their minds. Humans have a biological drive to feel understood. When someone listens to us, our brain rewards us. By letting the other person speak for 70% of the time and limiting your own speech to 30%, you aren't being passive. You are providing the social reward they crave. To maintain this engagement, you can use a technique of reflecting their own language. Rather than preparing your next sentence, you isolate and repeat back the key words they just used. If they mention a trip to Japan, you simply pause and ask, "Japan? What was the highlight for you?" Hearing their own words reflected back to them signals that you are highly attuned to their experience. This recognition lights up the brain's pleasure centers, creating an immediate sense of safety and rapport, without you having to be interesting in the traditional sense. But the spoken word is only a small part of the story. Before our ancestors developed complex language, they relied on nonverbal cues to survive. Because of this, roughly 93% of our communication still happens through posture, gestures, and micro-expressions. Our brains are hardwired for constant threat assessment. In any social setting, we are subconsciously scanning everyone in the room to see who is anxious, who is seeking approval, and who is truly at ease. This is where physical stillness becomes a powerful signal. While others might fidget or shift their weight, you keep your hands visible, relax your jaw, and minimize unnecessary movement. You might offer a subtle mirror of their posture or a calm nod, but your baseline remains steady. The brain interprets this lack of reactivity as a lack of fear. In a social environment, the person who doesn't need to scan for approval or adjust their body to please others is perceived as having the most internal stability. This stillness is read as high status, making you appear more capable and composed than those who are constantly in motion. Mastery over your immediate presence is only the first step. To sustain this value, you have to manage how you deploy your most limited resource, your time. If you are instantly available to everyone at all times, the human brain begins to treat your presence as a common commodity. This graph represents a basic psychological reality. When the availability of a person or resource reaches its maximum, the perceived value of that resource drops. If you are always there, your presence loses its psychological weight. Maintaining your value isn't about being cold or distant. It's about having a structured life. It means you are willing to walk away from interactions that aren't balanced and that you don't compromise your own schedule to satisfy every minor request. This principle also applies to the end of a conversation. Because of how our memory works, we tend to remember the beginning and the very end of an event most clearly. To leave a lasting impression, you must end the interaction at its highest point of energy, right before the conversation begins to trail off. By giving a genuine thank you and making a clean, confident exit, you prevent the interaction from becoming stale. This forces the other person to focus on your absence, which actually increases the mental space you occupy in their mind. This detachment proves you have your own internal source of value. When you show the room that you don't need its approval to feel grounded, the social power dynamics shift, and people begin to seek your attention instead of the other way around. Look at Subject A now. By choosing stillness over fidgeting and listening over performing, he has changed the room's gravity. He isn't working for their attention. They are naturally leaning toward him, drawn by his steady, unreactive presence. This transformation didn't require him to fake a personality or adopt a high-energy act that leaves him exhausted. Instead, he is following a set of behaviors that reinforce his own value. He has set a boundary that says his time and attention are meaningful, and the room is responding to that boundary with respect. At your next social event, test just one of these principles. Try using reflective listening to stay in that 30% speaking range, or practice total physical stillness during a high-pressure conversation. Real magnetism is the absence of approval seeking. When you stop reacting to the room's energy and stay grounded in your own, you stop being invisible and start commanding the space.